This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
I'd like to call the December 14, 2023 regular meeting of the North Haven Board of Education to order at 6:30 p.m. On that note, I'd like to turn the meeting, this organizational part of the meeting, over to First Selectman Frieden.
So thank you very much, and for those watching on North Haven TV, this is the time of year that North Haven's First Selectman has to go to all the boards and commissions across the town, the volunteer boards and the elected official boards, to help reorganize the board. And the way this works, ladies and gentlemen, is that I have three orders of business tonight. I'm going to ask for a nomination for the Board of Education Chair, the Board of Education Vice Chair, and the Board of Education Secretary. Three orders of business. So without further ado, I'd like to start. And the first order of business is, can I have a nomination for the Board of Education Chairperson?
I'd like to nominate Ron Baffert for Board of Education Chair.
We have a nomination. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Are there any other nominations? Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Chairman Baffert, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second order of business is to ask for a nomination for the Vice Chair of this Board of Education. Is there a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Randy Peterson.
We have a nomination for Randy Peterson. Is there a second to that nomination?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any other discussion or any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Vice Chair Randy, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
And my last order of business this evening is to ask for a nomination for the Secretary of this Board of Education. Is there a nomination?
Yes, I would like to nominate Eleni Diacogiorgio for Secretary.
We have a nomination for Eleni. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations or any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Any
opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Secretary. So on a personal note, before I leave, I'd just like to thank each and every one of you. The boards of education all over the state of Connecticut are very important positions, as everyone knows. But they're also very difficult positions. They're very demanding. There's a lot of work that has to be done. And I know each and every one of you do a lot of homework for these meetings. You spend a lot of time preparing before these meetings, and you spend a great deal of time at these meetings. And I'm very proud of this board, because from what I can see, this board works in a wonderful bipartisan fashion. Everybody has respect for each other. We seem to work very well. Even when there's disagreement, it's healthy disagreement. And that's what this government is about with me as the chief elected official. We know we may not always agree, but to have the respectful dialogue and to have the conversation back and forth to come to some kind of solution, I think is critically important. And I have to commend every single member of this board, because I think you do that very, very well in what sometimes can be some very difficult times with some of the things that we see happening all over the world and all over our respective societies and communities. So, my personal gratitude, thank you very, very much for serving. I'm proud of each and every one of you. Happy holidays, Mike. Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy holidays, everybody. Take care. And bye.
Yeah, let's just turn it over.
No, I just don't want to.
Yeah, turn it over to me now.
So now I turn the meeting over to Chairperson Baffert.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the November 9th, 2023 Board of Education regular meeting minutes? Goldie, enjoy your help, please.
The motion?
Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. In recognition of the anniversary of Sandy Hook tragedy, I'd like to hold a moment of silence. Thank you. We're going to move on to the student representative reports. Joe, you like to go first today?
Sure.
Run it.
So yesterday on December 13th, boys ice hockey team started their season where they opened the season off playing Lyman Hall. Also, the National Honor Society is hosting a fundraiser to donate to the Smilo Cancer Hospital. You can support by buying a Gold Game t-shirt. There was also an essay contest for Dr. Martin Luther King where students can participate by submitting essays reflecting on Dr. King's dreams, their own aspirations, and the importance of what Dr. King means to you. The winner is invited to a breakfast with Senator Chris Murphy. And for any student in the high school, there's also free SAT prep from December 13th till January 16th.
What are they selling t-shirts for? Smilo?
Smilo Cancer Hospital.
How do you get those? Do you know how to get those?
I believe you can buy them for hockey games. I think they're sold at the hockey games.
Just at the hockey games?
There are also flyers around the school. You can scan the QR code.
Okay. Has anything been sent home, do you know, for parents to see?
I believe the Daily Bulletin.
Okay, we just check what it costs. Thanks, Joe. Sarah?
Yes. So on Saturday morning, our varsity football team won their second consecutive Class MM state championship with a 21-0 victory over Wilton. Congratulations to our football athletes and coaches led by head coach Anthony Sagnola. Congratulations to Wilton on their excellent season, and thank you to our huge student and adult fan section who cheered on us to start with class. Our senior to senior breakfast was December 8th, 2023. We had a great turnout of senior citizen guests, filling our cafeteria with friends. Thank you to our culinary students and instrumental and vocal students who performed beautiful music and carols. And thank you to our senior class advisors, Mrs. Wade, Mr. Falcon, and our senior class officers. Health Career Day was a huge success. Over 70 students who signed up were present to meet and learn from community business members and healthcare leaders. Thank you to Annie Benowitz of Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce and Amy Rath, North Haven Career Department Coordinator, for making this event possible. And for school counseling, counselors will be meeting with juniors by the end of December to review post-secondary opportunities. Students are encouraged to review presentation materials and schedule follow-up appointments with their counselor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, we're going to take public comments on anything that is not agenda related. Is there anyone who'd like to make a comment today? Please come up to the mic and give your name and address. And anybody? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. Consent agenda is the resignation of Camille DeJoya, Human Resources and Payroll Manager. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? No? So moved. Thank you. Okay, on to my report. A couple of things I would just like to kind of go off what Mr. Frieda said. I'd like to thank everybody for their extremely hard work. You guys, I know you put in a lot of hours. Nobody gets paid. It's volunteer. So, you know, a lot of people don't know that on the outside looking in. They think that we're paid. We are not. And the amount of effort that you put in these meetings and preparing for these meetings and ad hoc committees and emergency meetings and special meetings, you guys should really be applauded for your efforts. And the same goes with everyone to my left. Without you guys, it'd be kind of a jumbled mess. So we appreciate everything you guys do also. I'd also like to congratulate the North Haven High School football team for winning its second consecutive state championship. That's quite a remarkable feat. And again, that's really it. Again, I just want to thank the board for their service. I want to make sure everybody enjoys their holiday, whichever holidays they observe, and have a safe and prosperous new year and a healthy new year. With that, I'd like to go to the report on the standing committees, and I start with ACES, but I don't see. Oh, Marty. I'm sorry, Marty. How are you?
I think he's on mute.
Yeah, he's talking.
Yeah.
Should we tell him we can't?
Hey, Marty, if you can hear us, we're having some technical difficulties. Hold on one second.
Is he frozen? We could call him and then put it on speaker.
Marty, can you try again?
Okay, they had their annual Christmas presentation of artwork by their students. They had 12 students presenting their Christmas card designs. Most of these children have some level of handicap, so it's nice to see them doing different. They respect their veterans, and it looks like they were coming in the end of the year with the under the drawing are old kids on their photo. I don't know what these are going to James Street for their central office location, and they're looking forward to a good year.
Thanks, Marty. I'd like to move on to curriculum instruction and planning.
We met earlier this evening before this meeting. We discussed a couple of new course proposals for the 24-25 school year. Pardon me. One was Southern Teacher Schools and Society course, and then another medical terminology at Southern, and potentially or I guess a UConn EC medical terminology course was also discussed. There were two new club proposals: the Stress Elimination Club at North Haven High School and the Gifts to Cure Club, also at the high school. And then we spent a fair amount of time talking about this. Ms. McKenna shared information about the district's waiver submission and the need for us to select new reading program for implementation for the 25-26 school year based on the science of reading and our waiver being rejected.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we're going to move on to the North Haven Education Foundation.
Thank you. North Haven Education Foundation met yesterday. They reviewed a couple of grants and approved one of them, I believe, for Monteluise. It was also one of the last meetings for John Parisi, who's been on the foundation since 2006. So I just want to say a big thank you to Mr. Parisi for his continued support of North Haven Public Schools.
Okay, we're going to move on to voting on the policies that we've had the read and reread through. May I have a motion to approve policy number 5146, educational stability procedures for transportation coordination with the Department of Children and Families?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. May I have a motion to approve policies number 4152 and 4252, family and medical leave?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. May I have a motion to approve policy number 1400, non-discrimination, community board operations?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion?
I have a question on that one.
Sure.
And this is a similar question for 1400, 5114, 5113, and 5145.51. Can we get, understanding that privacy is important, can we just get a count of the forms that have been submitted for non-discrimination, Title IX, student discipline, and non-discrimination student by school? Just like, for the school year, X number of forms were received. And it wouldn't impact the policy necessarily, the policy verbiage is fine. But I think if people are taking the step to formally submit a complaint, I'd love to just once a year get a note. Yeah.
Would you like, now this is the first one, would you like me to go a few years back so you have some context?
That'd be great. Thank you. And that's not it.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved. May I have a motion to approve policies 4118.113 and 4218.113? Non-discrimination personnel.
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Again.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. May I have a motion to approve policy number 5113, non-discrimination students?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
May I jump in?
Did you have a question?
Well, I wanted to just say that there is a note in there.
Yep, that's where I'm going.
Okay, that says like the bias note from
Exactly where I'm going.
Shipman.
So it's on page 2 if anyone would like to see it on the non-discrimination student policy. So Shipman wrote a little blurb. I mean, I could read it aloud just in case people have trouble finding it, and it's the board's decision on whether they'd like to include this portion of the policy in their vote.
Before you do that, can you just say out loud who Shipman is so the people who
Of course.
don't know?
Shipman and Goodwin is our legal firm, and they created a model policy system that the board subscribes to, and we are currently in the process of adopting their policies.
Thank you.
So in response to, this is what Shipman wrote to us, in response to requests from many of our clients, meaning other boards of eds, Shipman has developed language below, which you'll see in your policy, to address incidents of biased conduct and or communications by students. They ask the board to please note that in this context is not currently defined by law, but it raises the level of unlawful discrimination and or harassment. That said, it is commonly acknowledged that incidents of bias may be precursors to other discriminatory or harassing conduct. Boards that wish to explicitly include reference to bias in this policy may utilize the language that they include on page 2 to acknowledge concerns. So I could read the language aloud just so everyone at home can hear it too. The board recognizes that certain student conduct or communications may be indicative of bias towards individuals who are members of a protected class, even when such conduct or communications do not rise to the level of discrimination and or harassment. The board directs the district administration to address any such biased conduct or communications in a manner consistent with the board's legal obligations under state and federal law and board policy. This is including free speech considerations in order to promote a school environment that is welcoming and safe for all individuals. So it's kind of almost a voter agreement within the policy whether to include that statement that I just read. If you approve it, just how it stands, it will not be included. But when Ron takes maybe should take a revote to include that statement if the board so chooses.
Can I just ask a couple questions about it? Thank you. So, would it be substantively different if we enacted this policy? Would any administrative responses to any incidents brought before them, would any of them be substantively different? It seems a little bit like this is maybe something that we're we're addressing biases today, right?
We are, however, explicitly stating it allows the administration to kind of lean on the policy as opposed to leaning on themselves or if that makes any sense. It's saying this is their moral compass. No, this is what the board believes, and this is what I'm leaning on here. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So it makes the job of the administrators easier.
Yes.
In terms of not making that determination themselves.
Correct.
They have guidance to do that.
And there's uniformity among the buildings as
Okay.
well.
So can I make a motion to add the recommended language from Shipman and Goodwin
I want
to
this.
the approved policy?
We can. Just 1 second. Sure. Did Shipman give that a number or any designated title,
It is just
or it's just that
within
blurb
the
that they
policy.
wrote
Correct.
within the policy?
And the board can choose whether to adopt it within that policy.
Okay.
Okay, wait, sorry. So can I make a motion to add this to the agenda?
You have to make a motion to ask for a motion to change that.
Can I do that?
Sure. Yeah, you can do it. Sure can. I'll second that motion. Everybody, no objections, no, any other discussion on it? Okay.
Just the motion to add it, correct?
The motion, so now I can ask to add it. Yeah. Okay. I have a motion to approve policy 5113, non-discrimination students, to include the statement prepared from Shipman.
I'll make a motion.
Here, you second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve policy 5145.51, a policy regarding Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, prohibition of sex discrimination and sexual harassment.
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. May I have a motion to approve policy number 5114, student discipline?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I do have questions on that one. And
Sure.
it's a really nitpicky thing. The definition of martial arts, there is an incredibly limited amount of items that are defined as martial arts weapons. I was wondering if it makes sense to maybe make that a little bit more broad, because it is, I think it's nunchucks, nunchaku, which I learned new things there, a kama, an octagon, a sia, a tanfa, and a Chinese star. So 2 quick things. One is that I think there are additional martial arts weapons to this. At least that's what the Ninja Turtles have taught me.
There are.
And also, I believe the preferred nomenclature for Chinese star is now throwing star. So that's my only thing with the policy, but I'd love to see us make that a throwing star and maybe talk about adding some language that doesn't limit it to just...
Includes other weapons that may not be...
You just
Within-
say include
would
but
there
not
be a-
limited to,
Yeah,
Would there
yes.
be okay,
Right.
we could do that, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
including but not
Not
limited
limited.
to.
And there might be a catch-all with just weapons itself too, if
Yeah,
they don't
that's
fall
what I
in.
would, yeah, I don't think we need to individually.
No, you wouldn't be able to.
It was odd
Yeah.
to have them named individually, so...
Yeah.
So we don't have to vote on tonight, I can make that
Right.
adjustment.
Yeah, so we're gonna hold off on the vote on that. We're gonna have that rewritten, and we're gonna tackle that at the next meeting.
So you have to vote for both.
Right. Yep. So, to close that vote, I'm just gonna need, I need a second to I'm gonna make a motion that we postpone this for a rewrite to readdress at a future date. Can I get a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I just ask for clarifying? So we're just gonna change it to throwing star and then just add the catch-all phrase, right?
Catch-all phrase, correct.
We'll double check that when that rewrite comes out. We'll have to just to make sure that
We'll have
that's
to go through the 2 rounds again.
right.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Okay, so now we're at the review. It's from Randy.
Did you do first readings?
We have first reading
Yeah, that's
policies, but I didn't write down this one. Votes and stuff.
Okay.
So, that's what first reads are.
Where are you?
Milan, if you think.
All the way down? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep. Those are
That's it. Yeah. I give you the policies that we're going to start the first read through on, so we can get to those in March. No, February. Should be first read for January, second read for January, vote on February. Policy number 4112.5, 4212.5, employment and student teacher checks. We don't need to do all this, right?
No, that's just for me in case people ask questions.
Policy number 5113, PR student attendance, truancy, and chronic absenteeism student. Policy 5131.911, bullying prevention and intervention student. This policy added definitions of discrimination and harassment. These definitions are intended to assist districts in determining whether the conduct in question constitutes discrimination or harassment. Policy 4218, policy regarding prohibition of sex discrimination and sexual harassment in the workplace, personnel. Policy 5141.4, reports of suspected abuse or neglect of children or reports of sexual assault of students by school employees. Policy 5145.8, policy regarding students, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. So, Patrick will make sure that everybody gets a copy of this, you know, because I know we're all writing it down, but he'll send you a copy. That way you can have, all right, everybody have that?
Yeah, we have.
All right, just make sure if there's any question, if you're missing anything, just get a hold of Patrick and we'll take care of that for you.
Ron, can I ask a couple questions?
Sure, you
the
can.
First read of these, or you?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay, so for 4112.5, employment and student teacher checks, there's the same like not recommended, but optional language from Shipman and Goodwin around people who had previously been employed out of state and may not be able to be found in the DCF database.
Okay.
I think it's really important that we include that language, because even if they're out of state, I'd love to just make sure that we're hiring good people.
Right.
The student attendance and chronic absenteeism, 5113. Thank you for the sample forms. I think those are really, really helpful. But one question I have is, how does COVID interact with excused absences? So this is something that happened in my family last year. My little one had 8 excused absences and then tested positive for COVID. The doctors didn't want to see him because they were like, nah, he tested positive, it's fine. But then that would have put him at 13 days out without a doctor's note. So is that okay?
Yes, we'll have conversations with families, maybe a positive test, something along those lines to excuse the absences.
Okay.
Can I just follow up to that? It wouldn't just be COVID though. I mean, what if they got the flu? It's just anything. Sickness.
So that would, under policy, once state law, once you hit over the 9, you need the doctor's note. But if the doctor's not seeing you, or those types of conversations we can have with families, and then base our decisions on those conversations.
Does that 9 include those 2 mental health days though? Because you don't even need to see those.
They do not.
Right?
No, those are the students' days.
Oh, we're changing that name away from mental health.
Wellness, they're called wellness.
Right.
Mental wellness days, yeah.
Right, wellness days.
Yep.
And then Section 8 of that same policy says the state mandates that we have procedures for K-8. I think it makes sense for us to broaden that for our pre-K program all the way through like our transition program, just so that the policy applies? Unless, are there different policies for chronic absenteeism for our other programs? Or maybe pre-K is not a good idea, but yeah.
Right. Pre-K is not mandated to be in school, and so.
Sure, okay, so forget pre-K, but maybe through 12.
We'll dig into that and see.
Okay. Yeah, it's section 8, it's very bizarre. All of our elementary schools, except for Monowese, according to the EdSite data, showed over 10% chronically absent. Do we have to establish attendance review teams for those schools because they're over 10%?
Correct. They're built in with our SRBI or tier level services, so we have those conversations. Principals send home notifications to families letting them know when they've hit that.
Nice. Okay,
that
perfect.
criteria.
And then last question, this is about 5131, the bullying policy. I saw for like Title IX coordinator, Mr. Mastriano is listed all over there, but do we have a school climate coordinator? Is that the admin of each building? Or is that going to be Mr. Mastriano?
We just include his name and everything, yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
I think that would be the admin.
All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Well, school climate for this district in each building, it's the admin.
Right, each building broken down into the admin.
But Anthony's running how to utilize
Oh, absolutely, there's no question about that. Any other discussion?
What is the, I never know, like, what's appropriate on a first read? Is it appropriate to dig into the substances of the policies, or wait for the second read, or what?
You can ask after the first.
I mean, my concern is for the bullying prevention and intervention policy, and in the way that bullying is defined. It's such a broad stroke that really anything and everything can fall under the title of bullying, and it seems like it just is really an ad hoc decision by building administrators, and I think it puts administration at a very difficult position when there's just such a broad.
I agree with you, Joe, and a lot of it, the bullying definition is out of state statute, so it does leave it very wide open. And many of the times when we're investigating, we're consulting with legal counsel to make sure that we're grounded in any decisions that we make. It's a tough call for them. And they do bounce ideas off each other as well.
Okay. So, I mean, there's nothing that can really be done to tighten up that language if it's directly pulled from the statute.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. The state. It's not very helpful.
Yeah, don't get us started. You'll hear more about the state later.
Yeah.
We already got a preview.
That's a good point though, Joe, because I'm wondering if, like, are we seeing folks utilize the forms that are in the current bullying policy? Is that something else that we could get just like a count on by school of how often they're being used? And that way we can try to see, just learn a little bit more.
Of course.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so moved. Now we have a review of the building facilities usage request.
Yeah, so the ad hoc committee got together, I guess it was about a week ago, and what we worked on the most was this usage request form that you have in your packet. And basically what this is what anyone who's going to use our field, buildings, auditorium, whatever it might be, they're going to need to complete. What we did was we took what we've used in the past and then also took what other towns across the state use. Joyce did an amazing job collecting information from so many different districts. And we kind of took from them what we thought would be appropriate for us. Christian did a great job of putting it all together, and that's what you have in front of you. It is just a draft, so it is a work in progress, but it is definitely on its way. And so basically what this would be is it shows all of our guidelines of the expectations for any renters or users, and it would have to be completed and handed in and signed by appropriate people like fire and police before anything can actually happen. And so that's where we are with this. And we are meeting again in January, and that's when we'll start really looking at the fee schedule for all of the different renting. And again, taking into consideration all surrounding towns and what they have to offer compared to what we have to offer.
So I would just suggest that as you're looking at that draft over the next month for our next meeting, and especially before our January 19th?
We're done. 10? 10. 10? January 10th,
And then we're going
yeah.
a couple of days, January 10th. If you have anything pop up in your head after reading that before the 10th, call so we can discuss it at the ad hoc.
Yeah, and you know, that's a good point, and I would ask you to look at this from a board's perspective of what we want to include as far as information from our renters, but then also if you could look at it from a renter's perspective as well, for ease of use and understanding and that kind of thing, because we want it to be usable for everyone involved.
Is it gonna be like a fillable PDF online or Google form or?
Christian, what do you want to do
How
about
would it
that?
be accessed?
So the idea is to offer it in both forms, a fillable PDF. We just want to make sure before we take that final step that this is the final draft of the form before we put it into the fillable cells. But that would be the idea. What we see is some folks who want to use our facilities prefer the paper form. Some would want to use the digital form. Ideally, it would be great if everyone used the digital form just because it comes to us that much cleaner and easier. But I do feel that it would be in our best interest to offer both options.
So paper and fillable PDF.
There is a part on here where depending on the amount of people
Yeah, they
you
need
have
the-
using,
that's what I was looking
you need police and
Police,
fire,
Yep.
so they might have to just do it on hard copy and scan it over. So as long as we have all the signatures we need, is however you submit it.
Does it,
How many people is it? Sorry, go ahead. For them to need police and fire?
That's up to the police and fire.
Right.
So when they want to rent a space out, it is their responsibility to go to the police and say, we have 50 people, we have 500 people. And they decide, do we need coverage and how many people need to cover? And they take care of that piece of it.
Right, 'cause I think it has to do with what they're doing also. And not just the population.
Yeah. Okay.
And potentially 150 people at Ridge Road is going to look a lot different than 150 people at the high school. So that would
Right.
weigh into the difference.
In a school versus on a field
Yeah.
and all of that, so yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. On to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So my report this evening will focus on the new kindergarten start date legislation. As I shared with the board, effective 2024-2025 school year, Public Act 23-208 requires students to be the age of 5 by September 1st to enroll in kindergarten. This is a change from the previous January 1st date. So current legislation provides an option for parents and guardians to request in writing if they would like their child to be provided a waiver to be allowed into school based on a holistic assessment of the student's academic, social, physical, health, behavioral, and communication skills through the use of a screener to assess development in these areas. North Haven Public Schools, I'd like to, this is kind of where I go off from the state language and bring it back. I'm proposing that North Haven Public Schools will accept all students that will turn age 5 by January 1st. Those students who turn the age of 5 after September 1st, 2024, and moving forward, will need to provide the building principal with a written request to be screened. Once the principal receives a request, the student will be screened and then placed appropriately. I think it's important that the district not place any additional burdens on families and that we provide an equitable and robust education for all our students, but acknowledging at the same time that students may not be ready for kindergarten. So we plan a couple supports to help those students. There will be summer programming that focuses on kindergarten readiness skills and additional tutors that will provide support to kindergarten students throughout the school year. So I plan to draft a communication to go out next week and to be posted on our website, as well as created a normal process is a press release as well. So that'll have to be adjusted a little bit, just to inform families of how we're proceeding with this new legislation. So I just wanted to open that up to the board for discussion if they have any concerns. Yes?
I don't have concerns, I just have questions. So you said we'll accept any student that turns 5 by January 1st or September 1st?
January 1st. So really nothing's changed in how we're moving forward, with the exception of if you're from September 1st to January 1st, so you're in that, you just need to submit like the legislation requires, a written request to the principal. There will be a screener, but we're not turning anybody away. We're just we'll get some information to place them appropriately, possibly offer them some services over the summer, and know what the students are when they're coming into us the next year.
Would it be parental choice if they fall between that September and January, if they want to put their child in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So if a child, I'm sorry.
No, go.
Trying to
Go.
understand. So if a kid turns 5 after September 1st, they can submit to the school, and then the principal would do a screening.
Not the principal.
But okay.
Appropriate staff at the building. Yep.
Does the screening, and then it's determined, but we're not going to tell them they can't come.
Correct. So we already have a screener in place that we have kindergarten screening day, and so we're going to utilize that screener. It's really not a change in practice. We're just adding additional supports for the following kindergarten year and that summer to help students adjust.
But they would still be able to start kindergarten.
Yes.
Is this is this screening process standardized?
So it's not a standard assessment. It's something that each of our 4 buildings utilize. And
It's a homegrown assessment.
Right. It's grassroots. Yeah.
It's the regular kindergarten assessment that we always do.
Yeah,
standard in our system.
Standard in our system.
So how does that capture? I'm a little confused on how that's going to capture children who may not, or may have a deficit in one of the areas being assessed, that they would be appropriate to start at an age of 4 in September.
So even in past years, they've been able to start, and that screener provides us information. Class placement's helpful, and now moving over the summer. Last year, we had a program during the summer. It was open to a handful of students going into kindergarten. That information on that assessment helped us place those students into that pre-kindergarten summer program. But now we're going to broaden that to allow more students to come, knowing that this legislation is in place.
And then is there any tracking of those who were admitted at 4 and then struggled? Or
There will be.
There will be, okay.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
And those students that have birthdays between January and September 1st, if their screenings determine that they need additional support, there will be services available for them as well, right?
So we're adding some tutors during the school year. There'll be conversations, as always, with parents and teachers, and a lot of that's already in place already, but it will continue.
But we would need to increase the amount of support just based on the fact that we're widening.
We are planning to.
Okay.
We are planning. That's our plan.
Okay.
We don't have kindergarten tutors in the building right now, and that's
Yeah.
something new that we'd like to implement as a result of the legislation.
Go ahead.
Go.
Are we anticipating more kids who are 4 years old between September and January starting?
No, we don't anticipate a huge change in the way it's been past years.
Like, and this is not scientific at all, but my gut sort of says that because there's an additional form to fill out, there may be fewer as not initial. I anticipate the first year, because it's 20 grand for a year of daycare. I anticipate that we'll see a flat number and then potentially start to see people drop off. So like, it seems as though the risk of more kids coming in and needing additional services it doesn't exist, because it would be the same risk that exists today.
It does.
Okay.
And I don't want the waiver to be a barrier to families either, so that's another conversation the building principals and support staff will have.
But isn't that a state mandate? Like, doesn't the state make us
Yes.
get a waiver?
Yes, and
And it's another kind of piece that's a little bit open-ended at this time, and there seems to be a lot of talk about different directions and such too.
we might sit down here in March and have a different story to tell. But
Waiver is kind of the theme of
nothing's
tonight.
changing except for the waiver.
The process, right?
Except for the parents putting in. And we'll work with parents. So if they register and we find out that their birthday is October 1st, okay, could you just please send us an email or write a little letter to us, and we'll move forward from there.
I love Marie's idea of looking at some data and just seeing like how many waivers do we get each year as we continue to move forward. I'd like to just kind of see what this ends up looking like over time.
So do we.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue we're going to have right now is with population expansion in the town.
It's a great place to live.
As opposed to what, if everything just stayed the way it was, it would pretty much be the way it is. But I'm more concerned right now about population transfer with everything getting built and filled rapidly and younger families moving into town. But we'll see, we'll see how that plays out. What else you got?
That's all I have for
That's
today.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it would have a bit of a robust discussion.
Yeah, well, we did.
Yeah.
Base, DEIB, please.
Yes, so we had to reschedule our meeting for this month to January. But I do want to at least acknowledge the observances that the schools are acknowledging. Hanukkah this evening being the 8th night, Christmas coming up, Kwanzaa right after, and just as Joe mentioned, we have King Day coming up in January. So there's a lot of celebrations to be had around. So looking forward to our January meeting.
For sure. Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Thais? Okay, Assistant Superintendent's report.
Okay, as Joe shared in the CNI update, the district science of reading waiver was not accepted. Therefore, we are in the process of creating an action plan to guide our work as we select and implement a new program. Caitlin Ortiz, our K-8 language arts coordinator, has been instrumental in getting this plan going. Parent and staff surveys will be a part of it. And there is a list of state-approved programs that must be selected from. And new ones were just added in the past couple of weeks with compendiums, which are like additional materials. Patrick and I continue to be in communication with Shipman and Goodwin, our legal counsel, and various superintendent groups, because this affects many districts across the state. In fact, the last 2 days, Patrick and I have spent hours participating on calls with other districts across the state, the Superintendent's Network, the CAVE, the Board of Educations. So it's really a collaborative effort at this point, and it's really a moving target. Caitlin and I worked on a grant that's due at the end of December to help defray some of the costs if we need to select a program. If we are awarded, it will be $118,000 that must be used for an approved program or professional development around one of those approved programs. I will continue to update the board on our progress with this. Tomorrow, Patrick and I will submit a letter to the commissioner and the person who responded to our waiver, just saying that we want a reconsideration. That's the advice of Shipman and Goodwin, so most of the districts are doing that, so we want to follow suit, and it needs to be within 15 days of our notification. Obviously, if we need to go forward with this mandate, this is going to result in some budget implications for this unmandated legislation. So I will do everything in my power to, work on finding what would be the best program and solidifying funding wherever I can so that it's less impact on the district.
Can I jump in really quick?
Yeah.
In addition, Melinda and I will be meeting with Senator Ciccarella and Representative Yacarino around this, just because it is legislation, and I do think that they should hear where we stand and the burden it is placing on the district, our students, teachers.
We're really trying to take every avenue that we can to have dialogue and at least assistance with funding, if nothing else. On another, I think, more exciting topic, Dr. Dalley sent home a communication to families regarding opportunities for students in their junior and senior years to access college-level courses at Southern Connecticut State University. This program is called Early College, and it allows students to attend college classes on the campus of Southern while still enrolled in high school. Students can take up to 30 credits during all of the semesters, summer, spring, winter, or fall, and the registration fee is just $65 per course. So families and students looking for more information can contact Guidance or Amy Ropp, our CTE coordinator, for more information. Dr. Dalley also shared in his family update that we began an SAT prep course this afternoon, and it is open to any student who would like to attend. We will also do it again in January. Sarah nicely spoke about the health career session last week. Thank you. So I'll skip that. And there were some slides up there before, but we won't play with the computer. I'll ask Patrick to send them in his next board update that showed our district's Hour of Code activities that happened the first week of December. And many thanks to our math, science, and career and tech ed departments. It was really very fun. Lots of great activities. That's all I have.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
Yeah, I just, Beefer? I just want to, can you just repeat that a student can go to
Yes, it is.
Southern,
yes,
get 30 college credits
yes,
for $65 per credit or class or?
per course. I will ask Patrick to share, to
For a
forward
three-
the letter from Dr. Dalley so you have
So
it.
for $650, that student can get a halfway through his college career?
Well, not halfway through, but a 1 year in essence, yes.
25% of his.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it should have happened 15 years early.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
So, Melinda, thank you, because you do,
Yes.
you do such a nice job, and everybody just needs to know that.
Well,
you do
that's not me, that's, you know, the high school and Amy and guidance
you.
and all of that.
It's
Yeah,
everybody.
you could probably speak more
It's
to it than I,
everybody.
but.
Everybody. And a lot of those classes that we were looking at would fill like
General.
gen education requirements, which is even better.
And I just thought it was important to talk about it CNI in here so that families are aware of it, because it's those many emails you get sometimes that you don't click on the link and you don't realize
Is
the
there
opportunity.
Any limit to that at all?
30.
There's 30
credits.
30,
no,
students.
no, students, no. I mean, you have to get yourself there because it's on the campus of Southern, but.
Get out there and fill that form out. Holy cow.
You're really on it, Mark. So, Melinda, in terms of restriction, is it just for juniors and seniors?
Yes,
or-
that is the restriction.
Restriction, okay.
Yes.
Okay, because they're in the capacity to take the college class.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, we offer many of the college-bearing courses at the high school. Some of those are available to sophomores, depending on the course offering.
Okay.
But those juniors or seniors only.
Can we blast that out to junior and senior families?
I will ask Dr. Dalley to do that, and I'm not sure in which venue he did. I just happened to have it, so wanted to be sure to mention it. But yes.
Yeah.
And you're thinking it should probably stand alone, right?
Yep.
No, that's a standalone.
by
Yeah.
itself.
I was just gonna say,
And maybe
Melinda,
Anthony, guidance. We could have guidance. Kind of like highlight it a little bit.
So we're starting our junior meetings, I know, during this month, and maybe a flyer can go home with the families because they're in-person meetings. So that might be another good opportunity, just to capture more families.
So just from a marketing and communications hat,
yes.
like it is like my head is like spinning on this, and also as a mom whose notes never made it home. I think there is an opportunity to highlight this from a communications perspective, not only to those parents, but also to the community. I know we've got a lot of Southern grads within the community that would also be supportive to those students that are balancing those courses. But I think it's something good about this town that we definitely should highlight. So if you need help drafting that communication, I would love
Thank
to do
And
that.
Anthony, did I capture it correctly?
I believe
You are
so.
the authority, so. That's all I have.
But I think it's I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's a lovely opportunity for students to build a transcript before they even have exited high school. So it's a good way to experience what a college course might look like and then put you on a path in a direction that might lead you into a different way than you had decided. And I think the more that students have access to, the better opportunity. And I'm assuming that if it's I'm going to go with assuming, if it's a state transcript, most of those credits are going to transfer to any private schools as well.
It's a four-year institution.
And obviously we picked Southern as our partnership with that because of proximity.
Right.
Students aren't going to be driving a long distance, so we needed to make it accessible.
Similar to doing this psychosocial stuff. So a junior in high school suddenly showing up on a college campus. And you may not know the answer to this, but will there be any resources to sort of help that age group?
Not know.
You know, where do you find a room? What is the school orientation? Because I think that could be very daunting. It's daunting for a freshman college person hitting the campus the first time. I'm a little worried about juniors and maybe some seniors hitting this, and it's a whole different feeling than being in high school. So I'm just curious, maybe we can ask Southern, are there any kind of resources that can be tapped into to kind of help them get into an orientation to the college?
And do we have any recent grads or current students
liaisons,
that are at Southern to help shepherd them through that too?
And typically there are, with the partnerships with districts, there are the liaison piece of it, and it might be a student ambassador, so that it's more of a comfort level for our students that they can match up. I'm sure they'll provide opportunities for on-campus tours, but we can definitely look at all the details and share that information out.
And in the letter from Dr. Dalle, there is a form to link into, like an interest form, which then gets the communication started with guidance and with Amy to move things along. So there's probably more information embedded with that as well.
Okay.
I have one more question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
So what if the class is offered during the day?
Right.
Would they be allowed to leave and go to class and come back, or how does that? It would
Definitely
only be
not
after school class.
Right. If it were maybe a senior who had an early dismissal, it might work. But you probably couldn't be going to the 8:20 class, or that wouldn't work out. You couldn't trade it out for because you still need to get your certain number of high school graduation requirements.
Yeah, fair.
But where it's available in the summer and like that winter intersession, those are opportunities too. So
And I would think there'd be online availability.
Yes.
You wouldn't even have to go to the campus.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's true.
Can I ask a question about the waiver?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, that was a very fun topic, but I do want to just ask, do we know what the cost for the state-approved curriculum
So,
is?
yes.
Mm.
Oh, well,
It's a
not
$1 million question.
absolutely.
Literally the $1 million
It's
question.
$1 million question, huh? And it ranges, some are in the $300,000 range to $1 million plus. And it appears that most have consumable workbooks that you need to buy year after year. So,
Paper? Yeah.
workbooks, old school workbooks. Yes. So I can't give you. That's as best as I can tell you.
So, the grant is for $118K. That could potentially cover
Nothing.
not much.
Right.
And there's no guarantee of the grant either, right?
That we're gonna get it.
Yeah.
I think we'll get it because I've been really playing by the rules nicely. I attend Science of Reading School every 3 weeks, all day, and I'm really I feel confident that, and they may make me do some revisions, but I'm hopeful that we're okay with that. There's a region. District 6, which is Litchfield and Goshen. They have compiled all of these programs and the compendiums and laid them out in a classroom. So I'm going to go with Caitlin Ortiz, our language arts coordinator, with our checklist to at least be able to probably toss some out right away. And I want to do it without, and I know money is a consideration, so I don't want this to sound cavalier when I say it, but I want to look at the programs first, look at our checklists, and then figure out the cost. We do have
That's the
some
only way
rough
to do it.
estimates, but I don't
That's the
think
only
it's
way to do it.
fair to try to pick something
Yeah.
without doing our due diligence.
Plus, my understanding is there's a great deal of flux still occurring around this initiative. And
Districts are not happy, including us.
I mean, a lot can change in the next
Yes.
couple months over this, so it's.
I mean, Patrick and I were on the calls for hours between yesterday and today. And this is with probably 60, 70, 80 districts with us. So we're not alone in this.
And the fact that we can submit a letter the CSD is not necessarily accepting letters, but the advice we've been given is to submit a request to reconsider, just to have that out there and in their possession in case, just in case.
Sure, yeah, makes sense.
So the 300,000 to 1 million-ish is the initial purchase of the curriculum.
And I want to just correct you, and I'm not trying to be fresh. And it's not even a curriculum, it's really you're just buying the program.
Just the program.
Because a curriculum really should be like a living, breathing document. Right. And so we have to write that, which we'll have to do after the fact of getting the program. So it's a little bit out of sequence to how we would normally do things.
I'd love to see an all-in cost, because like that curriculum writing is resources that the district will need to allocate time for.
Professional development.
Which is, I mean, it's okay to do this. If this is the right thing to do, it's okay to do. But I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the all-in cost and then the annual cost as we move forward. Presumably these programs also wouldn't be frozen in time.
Updates
and like, is the need going to be moving forward to purchase those updates to the program from a specific vendor?
Yes, because you kind of, and not to complicate this conversation, and as I learn more, I will continue to update, but there are certain assessments that are also hooked with certain programs. So once you determine a program, your progress monitoring and universal screening, which is like where we kind of check in on student progress, that may need to shift. But I couldn't even begin to tell you what that's going to look like right now because we're not that far in the program selection phase.
And this is supposed to go live in 2025.
Correct.
Right? Okay. And thank you to you and Ms. Ortiz for the work that you've done on this.
And Tracy Gambardella, who was so instrumental on the front end of the waiver. I mean, the amount of time that was spent compiling that.
My understanding is that most of the districts that submitted the waiver were denied. Do I understand that correctly, or is it like half these? Okay.
So there's a couple levels to it. We were considered limited, which is a not accept. There's a transitional, and then there's
a partial,
I believe. Partial, and then there's like a full accept. The full accept is 6 districts, I think. We are in the largest, I believe, group of 30 or 40 districts of limited. It's interesting what Lynn and I have heard. The top, quote unquote, top 6 performing districts in the state had their waivers denied. So it's,
it's a program tweaking opportunity.
And what's interesting when I say about that compendium piece, which is like these additional pieces to the programs, some districts wrote their waiver and put in programs that were not on the original list. So then they accepted that and put them on the list with these supplemental programs like Heggerty and UFly, which we are using in district for different purposes. So it just, the target keeps moving, if that's the, I think, most frustrating part of the whole thing.
Is there anything that we can do between now and 2025 that makes sense to do without like purchasing new programs?
So we have, if you remember, I think it was either in September or October's board meeting, I showed you some of the professional development that we did, and we were so happy because we were able to bring teacher teams back by grade level and do professional development all in one spot at Clintonville, actually, up in that all-purpose room. So we've been doing a lot of work around science of reading and just good instruction very generally. We have also we've brought in some supplemental phonics because I do think that was one of our weaker areas, called UFly, and we've just ordered magnetic letters, everything that we need for that. We've been doing Heggerty, which is one of those additional programs for phonemic awareness. We already have that in place. So we've taken a lot of steps, and when we had a meeting, when was that, October? We requested a waiver discussion. Yeah. And you have to remember that the people reading these waivers are an outside agency that the state consulted with.
I think you should say that it's not the state. It's an outside company that's passing judgment on each of the districts.
So we had a video chat, and Tracy was there, Caitlin, Patrick, and myself, and we talked about like some of the new things that we would put in place as well. So, and there was some mixed feedback on what they wrote to us versus what was then reported in our rubric back. So we have all of this compiled, and we're being really thoughtful about making the best decisions we can.
Linda said it nicely. It was contradictory. It wasn't mixed.
You mentioned your meeting with our state reps about the issue. If it's possible, I'd like to sit in on the meeting if there's any way that could happen.
100%. Thank you.
I mean, I think it's a gross overreach as to what's going on, and I think we need to have our representatives push and say that this is not what the intention of the public act was. And I also think if there's 60, 70 plus districts, maybe there's a potential for those districts to join together and file some sort of injunction to prevent this from going into play. Because to mandate districts, especially high-performing districts, change, and then to slap a $300,000 to $1 million fee on top of the mandated change is a word I really shouldn't be saying in a public meeting. So, I mean, it's just, it's ludicrous. And I just, as hard as we can fight this and whatever you need,
thank you.
At least from me, but I would suspect from most of this board, if not all of this board.
And I think there are areas that we can improve in, certainly, and we're ready to take steps, but to throw everything out is the part that's hard to.
It should be the district's decision. It should be the board decision. It shouldn't come down from the state who doesn't know our community, our children the way that we do. And so that constant review and that update, maybe we do need to change curriculums, or it shouldn't be mandated by a certain date to do so. Like that's where I'm really at a loss.
Do you know the bill number that this went through on, just so we could have a reference?
I don't off the top of my head, but we can send it to you. And from the conversation we were on today, it really, the science of reading legislation in and of itself, and looking at the components of early literacy in kindergarten to grade 3, those are all good things. There's nothing that's sound. It's what they're saying went in the implementer bill that then pushed this specificity of programs.
Yeah, I think the intent is good.
Yes.
You know, the intent of the project starting to help school systems who are struggling with K-3 literacy is something that you should have our government supporting. But the implementation, how it has dragged in high-performing school, it just doesn't seem to make sense. So I'm really happy that we're going to use avenues to, help them reassess their decisions and see if we can really focus back on good quality education and not just fill in the form and pay some money. So.
And again, we're not opposed to change or continuously getting better and finding new things, but we also need to do that thoughtfully too and incrementally, not just pick something blindly just to comply. So.
Well, I think what is getting to me is that it's not a matter of guidelines. It doesn't seem like. It seems like there are individual programs that people want us to purchase, which if we need to update our guidelines, if we need to update our programming to be more modern, I'm fine with that. That's, I'm with you 100% on it. The problem is that there are, to Joe's point, there are high-performing districts that are kind of being told that they have to spend additional money that's going to come out of something else too. Like, very honestly, the likelihood of us getting a massive budgetary increase for next year to cover this is slim to none. So where does it come? Does it come from art? Like, reading is important, but so is everything.
Well-rounded, that's right. And I have to tell you, like, the ones that are in my office, there's one I just holistically have taken out of our decision-making because there's things that I don't think are appropriate for our community in just a random workbook I got in the sample that I opened up. So, that's going to be a piece too. The really looking into it, the manpower to do that is going to be a task. So more to follow.
I don't think you can even estimate the financial implications because you have the initial purchase and then you have the materials and then you have the consumables and then you have the replacement materials and then you have to have not just the initial but the ongoing professional development so that the teachers can implement the programs the way they're meant to be implemented. And if you don't have that professional development, all of those materials could just go sit in a room somewhere, because if they're not using them right, the kids aren't learning the way that they should. So the financial implication that the state is putting on each town based on the decisions that they're making is really just very unreasonable. And I'm with you. I like a lot of the ideas that they have, and I don't think that change is bad, and I do like the way this pendulum is swinging, but it's a lot to do for towns in a year.
And it's the kind of thing you shouldn't do just rushed, right? You should do your, exactly.
Or for towns that are performing at a level that is good or better than it should be.
So all I can assure you is we'll do our best to, begin really looking at them so that we're ready whichever way we need to move.
But I think you should also look strongly at the legislative side too.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, because if everybody, if it's 40, 50 districts who are on the same page come together and their representatives are pushing it, it's not likely going to go anywhere. It's all about numbers, so.
And we had a discussion today about whether even to start budgeting in this year's budget, so it's not such a hit in the years to come. And that's a hard decision to make too. And we don't know quite where we stand on that either. We obviously need the board's input, but that might be a discussion we need to have in January.
I almost think we have to think about that, because we're not starting this program this coming September, but we're starting it, whatever the programs are that we land on, the following September. So one of the worst things we could do is put PD in front of our teachers at the end of August and say, okay, next week.
Right. And we need to it would
start it.
Right. I'd like
PD starting next year for the programs
and
that we're starting in the following
if we need
September.
those materials, that they start getting familiar with them and digging through, because you can't have professional development with a program if you don't have the program in front of you.
Right.
So, I think there's ways we can, again, we're not there yet to have selected a vendor to kind of have conversations and see what kinds of, plans we can work out, what kind of timelines and all of that, or can we have materials in advance or pay part one year and part the next year? But, we'll look at all those avenues if we need to.
I almost wonder if we can just put X amount of dollars on a line.
That's kind of what we've been talking
future
about.
science of reading or whatever.
Right,
we
whatever it
wanna call
is, not to a particular program at this point.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. What if we did that and then it all falls apart?
Well, I still think there's plenty of things that we could do that would.
You could still use that money for something else?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think there's plenty of decodable text we could use. There's more phonics that we could bring in. There's a lot of pieces. That's not going to cost $1 million, certainly, but nor do I think we should budget that much right now. But there's plenty of things.
Deciding not to do the nature of accreditation.
That professional development is important too for new teachers coming in, or even teachers that might change from 6th grade to 1st grade.
Yeah.
Now you have to learn how to teach 1st grade, and you have to provide that professional development.
Totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just on the other side of that, what if he just didn't do it?
They could potentially pull funding from us, title funding. So.
That was a bit of a talk on the call we were on today.
How you doing, Joe?
They don't know.
Sometimes it is kind of freaky, isn't it? Yeah. It is. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think we're done.
I don't know if I want to thank you or not.
I know. Thank you.
But thank you so much for that. That really is it's an incredible task. So,
Sure is.
So thank you very much. Thank you,
Tracy.
I'd like to go into the interim chief operating officer's report.
Absolutely. Thank you and good evening, everyone. For my report, I'm going to walk through each of the bigger pieces here that come out of our office, so that way if you have questions, we can address them. I'm going to start off with the current status of our operating budget report. We're in good shape overall right now, but there are certainly some lines I'd like to address with the Board of Education. Currently, line 112R, reimbursable wages, I've spoken about this before. If you went through the Munis report, is in the negative. However, this is it's effectively our preschool program at the high school. And so it's a give out, come back process. And so we do receive checks from them approximately every 2 months. And so We did receive one right at the end of October into November for $12,520.42, which just needs to be booked and applied against that particular line. So the way that works is it comes in, it effectively goes into our special revenues account. We then have to pay the town back because it's come out of our operating budget, and then we have to book it in the munis system. So it's a lot of moving parts to get that back onto that particular line. We do have our first check of $12,520 to apply against that line. And so they do come in approximately every 2 months.
Can I just want to make a quick suggestion? As you go over the line item, can you take questions per line item instead of trying to do 10 or 15 and remember the question?
Sure.
I think it's just easier.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is the $12,520, is that like a representative sample of what the run rate usually is?
It's their tuition, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. I would like to apologize for the board in my report. The next line there, it says 113B certified differentials. That is actually line 115A certified differentials. So I do apologize for that typo. This line is currently over budget and will remain so for the remainder of this year. This line is utilized to provide substitute coverage with our own in-district certified staff. And so what that means is if we have a teacher who might be out, particularly at the middle school or high school for a longer period of time, our own staff will step up based upon their per class wage to cover those classes.
So you're expected to balance that out by the end of the year?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Line 3300, professional technical services. As I've spoken to before, this is a line that is currently in the negative due to unexpected technical services for our special education and specialized services. Line 33D, legal services. This line is currently in the negative, however, will be adjusted based upon the funds that we specified in the non-lapsing account that were provided for just such a contingency.
Can I just say on that one, like, thank you to everybody who helped plan for the non-lapsing funds there. This is one that's really, really important to make sure that we have covered. Well, everything's important, but 3300 and 330D in particular are really critical, so thank you.
Line 440D, these are rentals, and this line is currently in the negative, and this is directly related to the additional space that we provided after the budget passed, and so we do have to open up a purchase order to reflect that. Currently, our expenditures show that we should be able to account for that by the end of the year. Line 510C, regular transportation. This line is over budget. I want to be clear, this is not because M&J charged us for something that they should have. This is a transportation fee that we needed to provide through a state mandate. And so we have received grant funding that we can apply to cover already $6,041 of that particular deficit. And we are anticipating, again, to be able to cover that at the end of the year.
I'm not letting M&J off the top of my head either.
I appreciate that. Tuition, as previously highlighted, the line is over budget due to unanticipated special education costs and will remain that way through the end of the year as we look to address that, as we've spoken before, excess costs. Thanks.
So the excess cost is expected to address the deficit?
A portion of that. We always want to be cautious in making a promise we can't keep, but...
Okay, so at what point into next year do you kind of put everything together and say, okay, towards the end of the fiscal year, there's going to be X amount of deficit, and how do you cover that? What time do you make that decision?
Typically, the excess cost we do expect somewhere, as I've learned, around March, and then we start to address the budget lines around that time.
Okay. All right.
Technology software, line 7350. This line is currently in the negative. We are awaiting a transfer of grant funds to address this particular line. Each month I do provide the budget transfer report, and any budget transfer that would go across object codes, so you're actually taking money from one account that's not related to another account. I do typically highlight those in yellow because those do require board approval. There are none of those that are required for this evening's board report. We're going to update everyone on health insurance claims right now. I've been in active communication with our health insurance claim representative, Mr. Chuck Petrosini, from our insurance brokers at Brown & Brown. Currently, and we're not an isolate to this, our insurance claims are coming in higher than in previous years. Fortunately, this board and this district has really been building up our reserves. We are currently in a healthy position. But we are watching these carefully, and if necessary, may need to adjust accordingly with the possibility of needing to access those particular funds to cover those. I have asked Mr. Chuck Petrosini, who is also working with his underwriting team, to look into this to make sure that we're on point with both our reserves and where we're going to end at the end of the year.
I think this is going to be an important one for us to keep in mind as we go into budget planning, because as somebody who works in the healthcare industry, we're seeing this across the healthcare industry. People were deferring care for a while, and now those floodgates are open. So I do think that this, the actuaries that I know are thinking that this is a trend that's going to continue as we move forward. So this is just something that I'm glad we planned for a rainy day, because I think it is going to start raining.
Speaking of which, we are, as everyone knows, really in full swing of our budget preparation. As of this week, we have met with all of the building principals and department heads to review their budget request submissions for next year, and we are on track for submission to the Board of Education per our budget calendar at the start of the new year. The big drivers right now, we just had a pretty healthy discussion on unfunded mandates. The two big drivers that we are facing right now are really the unknown as the science of reading legislation may impact that, so we do in good faith have to at least address some forward thinking on that. Mm-hmm. The other big piece here actually has to do with indoor air quality, Connecticut General Statute 10220D3. This does in fact require all districts to have a very specific HVAC assessment done on all of the buildings within the district. There's quite a lot of requirements within that. This requires, as that statute currently stands, those inspections that are mandated have to be accomplished by January 1, 2025. And Mr. Diana has really kind of taken the lead on this, on taking a look at quotes in order for us to really make sure that we can get on the list. The tricky part for districts is there's only going to be so many individuals who are actually qualified enough to do these particular assessments on buildings, and so the idea is get the quotes, place it in the budget, and get on the waiting list as soon as possible. And so those are two big drivers in our budget right now, as well as things such as special education costs that we're taking a look at. And so I do want to be in full transparency with the board that these will be impacting factors as we build our budget.
As we're doing budget prep for next year, just two quick things. There was a note on Facebook the other day that said that we need chairs desperately for the audio and lighting booth in the high school auditorium.
Are those specialty chairs in some fashion?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll dig into
Can
that.
we look at that? 'Cause
Yeah.
I would love to make sure we have chairs.
Of course.
And also, like, I understand that we're always looking to be as thoughtful as we can with budgetary dollars, but as we move into this budget cycle, I want us, my personal request would just be to make sure we're thinking, does this budget help us be the best in our district reference group? Do we have everything we need to make sure our kiddos, our teachers, and everybody on our staff is going to be able to be as successful as they can be? That's it.
Kristen, just one, before you go on, just going back to that HVAC assessment that needs to be done by 1/1/25, that so understanding that there are some schools, not necessarily ours, that are going to have some issues. If we happen to be one of them and there's a major concern that comes up, like I'm just thinking, like already the assessment, the HVAC assessment is something we're not necessarily prepared for. But then if there's a major issue that we need to address, where does that come from? Just help me understand. It's just like,
That's a concern of ours as well. It's another budgetary impact.
Yeah.
That may come as a result of these studies.
To that point, I think Thais makes a very good point, and we've talked about this tangentially, but we got to start evaluating the need for new buildings or retrofitting the old elementary school buildings. And like, we can't just keep kicking the issue down, because it's going to be studies and years of studies and before we even get a shovel in the ground. So, and something like this, if it, to Thais' point, if it does go wrong, it could be very expensive.
So Ron, Christian, and myself have a meeting in January with a company that has a great reputation among school districts, and we've inquired if they can do a elementary building audit and projection, enrollment projections for us. So we're going to listen to their proposal, but it is costly as well. I mean, it's something that may be included in the budget. I mean, soup to nuts, it may be close to $75,000, but there are parts to the board could choose to take on, not take on.
So that is to assess future enrollment or state of the schools, or what is that?
Yes, to both.
Yep.
Okay.
Didn't we start the enrollment thing?
We did. We have some NESDEC reports.
Yeah.
They're not as detailed as what the company is called SLAM. It's an acronym, which don't ask me what it is.
Fine. But because I thought we had started this, because we talked about this about a year ago.
Correct.
Because of our increase in kindergarten numbers, and now some of our buildings are already at capacity, and then those kids are now going to be moving into the middle school. So there's like, it's just like domino.
This inventory or study will, like, those are numbers that this is the application. Like, how do we go about addressing it? What is the best? Is like, do we keep 4 elementary schools? Do we keep them in the same spots? How many schools? All those types of things we'll get some feedback on.
So that's like the necessary first step to figuring out where we need to go. Okay.
And if they start in January, how long does it take? Is it like a 6-month process? Is it a 1-month process?
They need to get into the buildings for a certain amount of time. So it might be something that they can get in over April break. They're going to need more than a few days to do that.
It's going to be at least a quarter, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least in a 3-month kid.
We're not talking years, though.
No.
Okay.
No.
If we sit down in August without something, I'd be surprised.
Agreed.
Okay.
It's good that we're at least moving forward.
Starting.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention, as it's getting cooler now, we know that those summer months are coming up, and we are definitely going to find ourselves in the same situation that we found ourselves in a few months ago, as it relates to the climate in the classroom for the end of the year. So I just want us to be mindful and thoughtful in terms of what some of those solutions, while it's cool now, to start thinking about what are some of the short-term solutions that we can do to help our educators as well as our students in the classroom at the end of the school year.
And I appreciate the board adjusting the calendar. We do get out a little bit earlier from snow aside, so I think that's a good natural first step, and then we can work from that.
My kids are definitely looking for snow this year, so
I am not.
So next topic would be transportation. For this month's Board of Education meeting, Mr. John Hipsher, Chief Operating Officer for M&J, did submit the monthly report, which was provided to the Board of Education members. While Mr. Hipsher was unable to attend this month's board meeting, we were able to present any questions you may have had to Mr. Hipsher regarding his report. So I certainly want to pause, do my best to speak on M&J's behalf in relation to those questions, of course, and then any questions I cannot answer, I will certainly forward to Mr. Hipsher to get the most accurate answer I can. So pause, and please feel free.
I wouldn't say you're speaking on their behalf. You're just answering the question, which is different.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Like this, when we first got a report from Mr. Hipsher, I asked specifically if that was the format that it was going to come in, because it had like tangible KPIs on it. I I had a really hard time understanding and following some of the threads in the note back from Mr. Fisher. So one thing that I'd love to request, because his math is tough for me to follow. I'd love a report that just says we have X number of active bus drivers, Y number in training, Z number to be hired for a total driver count of what is in our contract, which I think should be somewhere between 26 and 30, depending. As of right now, I don't think we have between 26 and 30 drivers.
No.
Yeah, I counted 24 with maybe 3 in training, but those are not guaranteed to be on here. So we keep hearing, we're almost there, we're almost hired up, we're almost there. I want to just see it tracked, like just give me the numbers, please. Also, you know, I didn't have a copy of our communication that Mr. Hipsher was responding to. So I'd love to just have a copy of that, if it's possible. For point number 2 on his letter, it seemed as though a lot of the go-forward action plans were very dependent upon our wonderful drivers. And to me, like, the root cause of a lot of these issues, maybe it's, you know, dead zones throughout North Haven, the root cause of that is not our drivers not doing what they're supposed to be doing. The root cause of that is M&J's antenna not being where it's supposed to be in order for them to meet their contractual obligations to us. So my response to this is just, I would love it if the go-forward action plans didn't depend on our drivers taking on additional responsibility to relay from one point to another, etc. If our drivers were able to continue doing the good work that they do, keeping our kiddos safe and making sure that they're focused on getting where they need to be. Because our drivers are fantastic. I want to just say that again. I really like our drivers. And I don't love that the response and the go-forward plan really seem to call out that our drivers needed to pick up additional items. Do we have a list of how many times we have asked M&J for video and not had it been available?
Yeah, we do keep a record of that, quite frankly. Clintonville had one instance where they did not get the video feed that they were looking for. Green Acres has 0, but there have been no formal requests for any incidents that would have required that as of yet. Ridge Road had 1 that they...
These are this calendar year?
This calendar year, and we were addressing this school year, excuse me.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so because this report would not necessarily indicate that there were times at which videos were requested and not delivered.
Correct.
And do we have an understanding of what the go-forward action plan will be to make sure that we have access to video at any given time?
So we've been told that they have increased the amount of times that they are checking their cameras. Their mechanic has been charged with doing that, and when we speak to Mr. Hipsher and his folks, that's something they tend to relay to us. But I'm just, again, we're relaying information. Yep.
The cameras are broken. The contract says we have cameras. So I appreciate that it's hard.
Yep.
But it's in the contract.
I just thought I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what
Totally.
they said.
Got it. Appreciate that about you. Do we know if we're getting credits from M&J for not having the number of drivers or routes that we're supposed to have, for having video outages without that are not in compliance with the contract, etc.? Do we know if they're gonna?
Similar to last year, something we worked out closer to the end of the year to get a full picture of that. Last year, we were given $125,000 in credit.
Yep. And I mean, I'm happy to see that our current drivers got a pay bump. They deserve every cent. Love that for them, and I hope that other people will continue to be hired on. I think that's a wonderful thing. Have we heard anything about the GPS from Mr. Hipsher that we asked about when he came to talk to us?
Have you heard most recently?
So in terms of, we drove the question to him. They can track their vehicles. In terms of an actual parent app, the response we've given is that would be in addition to our contract. If we would provide access to like a cell phone parent app, and you could track the bus yourself.
It's Zonar, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The meet and greet events, I appreciate. I'm glad to see that we have one coming up in January. And I'm also glad to see that M&J is starting a new hiring campaign that seems to have yielded 3 applicants within 2 weeks. But that campaign only started on November 26th, which is, that's pretty far into a school year. And while 3 new licensed drivers is promising, like, I would encourage them to continue with these campaigns until they are fully staffed in accordance with our current contract. For item number 7, let's see. Item number 7, I would encourage M&J to read all of our contract provisions and commit to meeting all of them, including the date and the routes will be delivered. It might even be a good idea if they wanted to plan to deliver that a couple days in advance. That might be a great relationship builder. So, like, I'm excited to see this much information. This is good, but I don't really know what to do with a lot of it because it's either contradictory to what Mr. Hipsher told us when he came here, or it's math that doesn't add up. So, this is not at all directed at you, Mr. Strickland. You are doing a fantastic job, but I have a lot of questions for M&J and would absolutely love to discuss them with Mr. Hipsher if he would like to come to another meeting, if that's okay with Mr. Beck.
Of course. He has an open invitation.
This aggravated me when I saw it, and I frankly, I think you're just being too kind in what you were saying to them. It's crap. Sure. It really, what it is. It's just, it doesn't address the things that we've really asked for over and over. It's a lot of fluff in here. It's a lot of confusion. It's a lot of, the nice way to, it's how Amanda put it, is that it falls short on almost everything that we really want.
Well, and this is an M&J management issue.
Correct.
I want to just be very clear that, like, our drivers are compensating for the management team currently, and I'm not trying to attack anyone. I want M&J to be successful. Nothing would make me happier than for M&J to fulfill their contract. But I think we just really need to continue holding Mr. Hipsher in particular accountable.
Can you tell me once again when this contract ends?
End of 25, right?
2/30 of 25.
End of 25. Anybody else? Nope.
Alternating to a vendored service that we access that we're very happy with, Chartwell's. Our cafeteria and food services does continue to deliver in spades. The profit and loss report from Chartwell's continues to really highlight robust meal sales as well as additional a la carte sales. In November, overall meal counts came in 24% higher than anticipated, which means our kids want to access our food services. Overall total sales, that's a combination of meals and a la carte and all the other additional pieces, actually came in overall 15% higher than anticipated. We also had visits from effectively the president of Chartwell's and community relations over the past couple weeks. I got an opportunity to sit down and meet with them. We toured the various facilities, and they're nothing but impressed with what we're receiving here. And so I think that's a real testament to the people that are working in our food services, our kitchens, and Mr. Salvezzo, who is really heading that for us. And we're incredibly happy with the services that they're providing for our students in terms of meals. Also related to cafeteria and food services, following the November 9th, where I shared the spend down plan with our excess cafeteria funds, we immediately began purchasing the equipment that we highlighted in that presented spend down plan. With that being said, some of the larger pieces, such as the ovens, we have 2 new convection ovens that they will be installed over the December break as to not impact students at all. The other piece that I'm excited to share with you that we asked on a timeline in regards to the air conditioning units that are going, I want to be very specific here, that are going into the kitchens in our cafeterias, that are air conditioning the kitchen areas. We are working with Viglione Heating and Cooling, and we've already been in contact with them. Next week they're going to start the beginning phases of the pumping systems, and their anticipated install will be December, 27th, 28th, and 29th over the break. Those air conditioning units will be placed in those kitchens, and that will be a total turnkey installation at that point. So that piece will be completed. We're still working on the walk-in coolers that we highlighted. Any questions there?
I don't know if it's really a question, more of a statement, I guess. Maybe I'm just grumpy because of the lack of sleep today, but like, I agree with you. I think Chartwell's is a great partner. They've done a great job for us. Mr. Rizzo is fantastic. My only, I don't even know, I really don't know how to couch it, but I'll just say complaint would be, I would really like to see some healthier food served in the elementary schools. I think in the middle school and the high school, the food choices are much better, but the elementary schools, it's just, the quality of it, I don't think is where it could be. I would love to see if we could get some healthier options in there, because, you know, for some kids who the school breakfast and lunch are their main meals of the day, some more nutritious, dense foods would be great.
Mr. Rizzo is very receptive, and I'd be more than happy to share that directly with him.
Thanks.
Just two more pieces here. The grants report. We continue to use state and federal grant funding to really support our overall budget. And I would like to take this opportunity. You heard Superintendent Stirk speak earlier about the North Haven Education Foundation. We have received 3 grants from them already this fall to support what we're doing in our classrooms. Just like to highlight those 3 and where those monies are going. Miss Krista Kaplan, who wears many different hats for us in our district, she's also a parent. And so she received one of those grants as a representative of the Montouise PTA for $1,000, which is going to be used to help partially fund elementary outdoor and indoor recess bags for more equipment for our students, so they can enjoy recess that much more. A grant award of $1,518.28 was awarded to Paris Godbout for the purchasing of egg hatching equipment at our elementary schools. And then a grant award in the amount of $7,041 was provided to Mr. Joseph Romanelli for the purchase of whiteboard tables here at the North Haven High School. There'll be 26 whiteboard tables purchased that will be split between 2 classrooms, so the students can work collaboratively on those particular whiteboard tables in those 2 classrooms.
That's such a cool idea. Can you keep us updated on how that goes with the whiteboard tables? If somebody invents something cool, I'd like to know about it.
Yeah, they're right behind us.
These are whiteboard tables.
Yeah, they're great.
They're really neat.
And finally, for my report this evening, I would like to request from the Board of Education approval for a donation at Green Acres Elementary School. This is a special donation, a $500 donation that is being presented by Teresa Veal in the North Haven Rotary Club. This donation is made in memory of Jack Veal, who was a student at Green Acres Elementary School but passed away at a young age. The library was a very special place for Jack, and it is the intention of his family to keep his legacy alive in that corner. In Jack's corner, the $500 is provided to be used under the guidance of Ms. Gambardell and, of course, Ms. Nagel to purchase additional books that would be housed in that particular part of the library.
Are you all set?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's okay. You're all set with your original report? Okay. We have a motion to approve the monthly financial report, included the recommended transfers.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just please thank Teresa and the Vealy family for us.
That's coming up. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. May I have a motion to approve a $500 donation to the Green Acres Library, Jack's Corner, from Teresa Veely and the North Haven Rotary in honor of her son, Jack Veely.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. We have a interim director of student services report.
Yes, please. Thank you. Good evening. I have a few items to address this evening. Our continued communication about the school-based health. I've been in touch with multiple leaders, and it was clarified to me by Yvette Highsmith-Francis, who is the vice president of the Eastern Region Community Health Center, that she reached out to their finance and billing leaders to provide us with some more direction and information. They did inform me that Magellan, which is Yale's insurance, is closed to only Yale affiliate providers. They do not credential any non-Yale providers. Mrs. Highsmith-Francis shared that they have a team that is willing to provide support and assist families to the best of their ability in terms of the copay with discount and fee reduction process. For support, again, please reach out to your child's school-based health clinician. Additionally, there will be a clinician change at Green Acres Elementary School. Currently, the school-based health hiring committee is searching for a highly skilled and qualified social worker to support the Green Acres community. Mrs. Gambardella, interim principal of Green Acres, and I will meet with the new candidate prior to their start date to ensure it is the best match for our student community. In the interim, Mrs. Kate Trofeter, who is our regional director of school-based health services for North Haven, will be calling families individually of students that are currently receiving services to provide different options moving forward. The next piece I would like to highlight something positive at the middle school is the middle school staff, as they are continuing to work collaboratively, with our educational consultant, EdAdvance, to bolster our current co-taught classes with Fidelity. Co-taught classroom instruction pairs a general education teacher with special education teacher within a particular content area. This model of instruction will benefit all of our students. EdAdvance facilitates follow-up meetings with co-teachers and provides targeted feedback to help create the most meaningful and effective co-taught models to be implemented on a daily basis. And then lastly, we are moving in a very positive direction with our transition of the Intensive Learning Service Program, ILS, from Ridge Road to Clintonville. We're working collaboratively, with many district stakeholders to ensure the program transitions as smoothly as possible. We met this week with Mr. Phil Diana, our supervisor of building and grounds, to review our intended plans and spacing available at Clintonville. We will have an open house in the new year and will invite families to tour the new space and ask any questions and to kind of help ease with the transition and any of the worries. So, and I just have to say thank you to everyone that's making this critical change possible, especially all our frontline teachers that are hands-in, hands-on, really excited to be part of this new change. And lastly, just wishing everyone happy holidays and a great new year. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know I kind of went fast.
That's all right.
Great. I'm going to try to be quick too. But just on the school-based health program. So
yes.
We're a public school district, right? So it's a huge benefit to have these services offered in our school district at no cost. And there's benefit to the school-based health services company because they get our capital, like our buildings, at no rent, right? Mm-hmm. So like it's a symbiotic relationship. But I don't know that it is as symbiotic if like one of the largest employers in North Haven, like if the children of those folks are kept out of this. And I understand that Ms. Kate has been wonderful, like trying to help work with people individually to make sure that the copays are as low as they can be, but they're still prohibitively high. It is a significant amount of information, and the questionnaire that they send in order to get any kind of a reduction, like asks you how much you spend on laundry a month. It is so invasive and bananas. So I feel like this is just something, like, I appreciate the partnership here, and I see the incredible value of having these additional services here, but I want to just reiterate to Miss Yvette Smith-Francis that there might be additional work that we can do to provide some clarity, some guidance to families that are impacted. This is something that I've heard about from multiple families too. That people are sort of upset about this.
Absolutely, and I have received quite a few phone calls and emails in regards to that, and I feel that I'm in such a difficult position because these are their answers, and that's all they can provide me, but I keep going back, and sometimes it takes a little bit for them to get back to me with a clear answer, and I just feel like we're kind of stuck right now, so I'm going to keep continuing to push to see what other options are available, and if need be, well, we can always look at different avenues moving forward.
I appreciate all the work that you've done on this. This is a huge benefit to the whole district and all the kiddos who could just use a little extra support right now. So thank you for your continued effort here.
Absolutely. Thank you for the support.
Anthony, is there any way to kind of extrapolate what the copay cost would be through a year based on the amount of visits are had?
I think what I can do is I can reach out to them and see what the traditional copay might be for each major insurance.
And I know they're a little,
Absolutely, but then at least we
wavered,
can get a ballpark of what it might look like. Any student that receives Medicaid services through the state, there is a $0 copay. However, there are a lot of other private insurances such as Anthem, Magellan, and et cetera. But let me see what I can do.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see what that number is.
Absolutely.
And how obtainable that number may be.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to open it up for public comment. So public comment in this session is anything that is agenda-based. As I separate the crowd, yes, no, maybe? Come on, I know you can do it. I know you can do it. Come on.
If you want to make this longer, Tim Gabriel, Renee Lang. The only thing I would add is just I just want to emphasize what Joe had said earlier about the charcoals and the healthy meals and stuff like that, and just put an extra point on the option of vegetarian and vegan meals too. My daughter is vegetarian. She comes home and a lot of times the options are there's usually some kind of salad and you either like it or you don't. Sometimes she likes it, sometimes she doesn't like them. The other option is some kind of formation of bread and cheese, which is usually not the healthiest thing in the world. So, and obviously, vegetarians can't eat the meat option, but everybody can have a vegetarian option as well too. So it's just generally good to have that one with you. That's it.
Thank you. Anything? Okay, seeing no one else? May I have a motion to adjourn the December 14th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Education?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 11th, 6:30 p.m. here in the library.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.